Before we start, just thank everyone out there for the thoughts and prayers with Zia Combs. Michigan man, my roommate and teammate, one of my best friends, passed away last week, and it was an honor to be at the service yesterday and just see a lot of the love and support that he got from the people in the Ann Arbor community and former teammates and former staff members at Michigan. It was a pretty special ceremony to honor him.
Tony?
Yeah, I just want to ask you a little bit more about that. Like you said, you were roommates with him here. I guess what are some of your favorite memories and just like his injury that happened at the time? How did you guys sort of bond through that?
Yeah, he was my roommate when it happened, and during his injury, October 12th, and it was a sophomore year, and it was tough. It was tough just to see a talented player. He came from Lexington, Kentucky, and just watching him overcome the adversity of the injury. And he was talented. He was, passing guys up on the depth chart. And we had a very talented defensive backfield with Marlon Jackson, Jeremy LeSueur, Marcus Curry, Brandon Williams. We had some guys that played in the NFL that, he was competing, he was playing at the time, and just watching the game taken away from him and just his mental fortitude, just how he handled that, because football is, been playing it, we play football from a young age, and for the game to be abruptly taken away, it's pretty tough. And, just to watch him grow to the man that he grew into, the father and the husband, it's pretty special.
You guys, any questions?
I'll pivot as well. Obviously, got a job to do still as well. What sort of matchup do you see with your wide receivers who are ascending against Michigan State secondary that's kind of been exposed in the past game at times this year?
Yeah, the one thing we talked about was it's a veteran group. It's all seniors across the defensive backfield. Guys played a lot of football, and they're going to come out there. They have a great scheme. They're going to come out there. They play hard, play physical, and our guys just got to play detail. You got to play detail. You got opportunities to show up in the run game. We got to make sure we, taking care of our business. And then in the pass game, we just got to make plays. Make sure you detail, top of the route, balls in the air. Got to attack it, got to catch it, got to make plays.
Right here, Austin.
Ron, when you were a high school coach in the state, what was your sense of how much kids tracked this rivalry? Were they paying attention to who's up and who's down, who's got the upper hand in this rivalry?
Yeah, 100%. And you knew it based on being in the high school, being in the building, by the sweatshirts, the attire that the kids wore. You could tell, if there was no allegiance to a school, they wore that team's colors. And, I was there, many of my years was Coach D'Antonio, and he had a lot of success. And so I didn't like it, but now, the kids, they're going to really rep whoever's winning. It's a big deal in our state. State champs, you live with it for 365 days, and our kids know it, and we take pride in it.
All right, Sam.
At this point in the season, what does Jamar Breder's path look like to starting? Is that path still there?
Yeah, Jamar's been working them, just getting them going, getting them ready. He's had some really good practices, and Jamar is he's a young man, but he's gonna be special. He's gonna be a very talented he is a very, very talented football player. It's he backs up Donovan McCulley, and he has a great mentor in D-Mac, and D-Mac's been showing him the way, showing him the ropes, and it's a matter of time before Jamar starts getting on the scene.
All right, Brian.
What would you say Andrew Marsh's top trait is as a receiver?
Man, he's a fetcher. He's a ball fetcher. The ball's in the air, he goes and gets it. He's detailed. For a young guy, he spends a lot of time just, perfecting his craft, whether it's film study, whether it's standing after practice on the jugs machine, working on footwork. He asks a lot of questions, always wants to know, why are we doing this, and most importantly, the how, when a young man has that type of mindset, he's going to be successful. And, we all knew coming out of high school he was talented. It was just a matter of time before we can get him on the field.
And for a group that's struggled with drops at times this year, what is it like to see a guy like him go up and make some spectacular catches, including the one-handed one on? Yeah,
we were he's been great. It's been great just, making sure he continue to chase the details, continue to work hard every day. And that's he has a knack for working hard. Every day he shows up, ready to work, smile on his face. He wants to get better each and every day. And, it's my job to challenge him to make sure he's there. Play with confidence, as we say.
In the back there, Charles.
Yeah, we saw Andrew move up the depth chart. Do you anticipate any other changes? in the coming weeks?
Guys are, we're just competing, every day. Every day is a competition. You got to find your niche. Guys are going to, they saw it with Andrew moving to the starting lineup, and, some of the other guys like, hey, we want an opportunity to play more. You got to practice well and, do some things because, Donovan and Andrew are playing very well. And, that's every week we're trying to create competition.
What's the conversation with a guy that is going to see less snaps?
Usually if a guy is, if their role is decreasing some, they know why. You had those tough conversations, and really it's the film. If you're not playing more, it's because of, the product we're putting on film. Mm-hmm.
Tony?
Yeah, Sharon Moore said earlier this season, like when drops were happening, he's like, the last thing I'm going to do is say, like, don't drop the ball. Like that goes without saying. But just Samaj had another one on 4th and 1. Where is he at sort of mentally right now?
Yeah, he's confident. That's, Samaj is a very confident player, and we just got to keep making sure, when the ball finds him, he gets an opportunity. You got to make plays. You can't worry about what the outside forces say, different things like that. You got to keep chasing the how, and that's something that we continuously not only tell Samaj, but everyone on the team for that matter. If you're struggling in the area, how can we build you up? He's doing everything, he's supposed to in the sense of, staying on the jugs machine, staying at the practice, working with Bryce. He's doing those type of things, and, we've got to keep building his confidence up because he is a very confident young man.
On the left there, Anthony?
Yeah, when you guys added Donovan McCulley this offseason, it was to get more size, some of that jump ball type of stuff. What do you make of what he's brought so far and how he can maybe earn some more of those opportunities?
Yeah, he's I think you look at a 6'5" receiver, you see he could jump out the gym. The play he made on the sideline against Wisconsin kind of shows his freakish athletic ability. But, he's become a more detailed, more precise route runner. If you can recall back in high school, he was a quarterback. In his first few years at his other previous school, he was a quarterback as well before he moved to receiver. So he's learning a position. And obviously being his first year here, he's learning the offense. And there's some regards, like you develop him and treat him as a young receiver, for that. So now, more and more each and every week, you can see the confidence building, and you just put more and more on his plate.
Right here, Ryan?
With Andrew Marsh's role continuing to increase, what effect do you think that might have on recruiting in the future, being able to tell guys, hey, like if you put in the work, you can see the field early on? Yeah, we don't. If you're a freshman and you're talented, you're going to play. Like I don't think any position for that matter. You don't discriminate because a guy's a freshman. Now, it does take a little longer for freshmen to come along. You want to make sure that they can go out there and play at a high level, play with confidence, play with detail and whatnot. And that was the case with Andrew. It took us a few weeks to get him going just to make sure he knew exactly what he was doing. And because one thing you can do is, you throw a kid out there too early and, they fail or don't, they're not successful, they could lose confidence. So you got to make sure that the kids are developing the right way, playing with confidence, and, when they go out there, they can execute at a high level. And I think from a recruiting standpoint, I definitely use that as we're not afraid to play freshmen, and that's been the case for me, since I've, been coaching here, my first year coaching the safeties, Rod Moore played a great deal his freshman year at safety. And, you look over and, Samaj and then, some of the other young freshmen were playing. So we're not afraid to play freshmen if they're ready to play. And one more on Samaj. How similar would you say his role is now with Michigan that compared to what it was at West Bloomfield?
I had him for his first 2 years before I came here. His freshman year he played JV, and I wound up moving him up for the playoffs. But his sophomore year, very similar how we use him here. Dynamic with the ball in his hands, and he's a playmaker when he makes has an opportunity to make plays.
In the back there, Alejandro?
Ron Deacon's a player out of the tight end room. I think his run pass splits were all passes in the last game. How much is he a natural pass catcher, and who else in the tight end room stands out to you as more receiver-like?
Yeah, Coach Kasula's done a phenomenal job with those guys. Something that Coach Moore preaches a lot is, football is a violent game, and there's going to be injuries and next man up mentality. And, I know I, for one, was proud of our coaches for making sure our guys, the next man was ready to go. And speaking in Deacon, talented, he's a talented kid when we recruited him. And, now he's getting his opportunities. He's flashing, he's shining, and he's showing what he could do. Deacon's going to show up in a run game and a pass game. We feel really good about Deacon. And Zach Marshall, he had the game of his life this past Saturday, and he's a guy that he's like this in practice all the time. Zach, physical, doesn't get tired in practice, could take every rep if you allow him to. He plays with unmatched energy. That's what you love about Z Marsh, and I was glad to see him have the game he had in a run in the pass game. Those guys are playing at a high level.
In the back right, Angelique.
Ron, I think everyone sort of acknowledged that Bryce throws a really hard ball. I mean, how do you work on that in practice? And is there something you can adjust with the jugs machine when they're working on it?
No, the thing we just tell our guys is, Bryce, first and foremost, he throws great balls. He throws catchable footballs. For us, it's, find the football, see the football then, see it caught, just play with detail. And it doesn't, I've played with quarterbacks, played with guys with big arms and just catch the football. You get used to it. Whether you're on a jugs machine, during practice, pre-practice, post-practice, whatever it is, the receiver's job is to catch the football. I don't see an issue with how he's throwing the football. I think he's throwing the ball just fine in my eyes. He's talented. He's giving guys opportunities to make plays. You got to make them, and it's my job to make sure our guys are, doing that. He's throwing the ball to us, go catch it, make plays, and, do some cool stuff afterwards.
I was just curious also, when you were a player, how long did it take for you to get this rivalry coming from Louisiana?
You know what? It took me, so my freshman year, we went there, Nick Saban was the head coach, and I saw some things on the field. I was like, ooh, that's crazy. I remember one of their players had spit on Todd Howard, and I was like, whoa. Well, I'm from Louisiana. My home state school, LSU, doesn't have a big rival like that, an in-state rival like that. And I learned very quickly that game that this game, you gotta put your big boy pants on, strap them up, ready to go. Like I said, it's bragging rights, state champs, and they're gonna play hard. We're gonna play hard.
Time for a few more. We're starting back there with Zach.
Having been in the rivalry and in the program for a while, do you feel like there's things you tell your players throughout the week or at the beginning of the week to kind of get them ready?
Yeah, man, just, continue to chase the details, play hard, be ready. This is, obviously every game's a big game, and, Michigan State, we respect them. We respect Michigan State because we know what they're going to bring. They're going to be tough. They're going to be physical. So are we. And we know that this game is circled on their calendars, much like it's circled on our calendar every year. And, everyone's going to be tuned into it, the entire state. And we playing there. They have a ton of pride. Since I've been, part of this rivalry for the past 25 years, it's a ton of pride. Doesn't matter who the coach is, don't matter who the players are. They're going to play hard. They're going to be physical, and they're going to play to zeros on the clock. And we have to do the same thing to be successful.
And for a former quarterback like Donovan, got that swing pass that he then threw down the field. Is that something that he kind of asked for at all, or is that something that you guys look to implement more in the offense? Yeah,
I mean, he's just trick play. I looked at him. I said, man, what a throw! What a bad throw! Just teasing him, and he laughed. He laughed. He thought it was funny. It was a trick play. Something that we tried, and we didn't execute it. But he gives you that ability, to do those kind of things. Great seeing you, man. I've known since he was a little boy.
In the back left there, Alejandro.
Ron, people talk about the RPO offense being a bit difficult to install. It's a lot on the quarterback, on the offensive line. But what does that mean for receivers? What's the difficulty of installing an RPO offense?
I don't think it's difficult. I just think if it's new, it's just nuances that you got to iron out. I like it for receivers. It's because now, if you want to put extra hat in the box to stop the run, which you guys over the years we've seen a ton of that, right? Guys, 7, 8 hats in the box trying to take away our run game. Now, you have a quarterback that's very talented that can make those throws. He can, flash, fake, boom, get the ball out to the receivers. And, as a receivers coach, anytime you guys have an opportunity to make plays, you're all for it. So, but, something, in addition that Coach Lindsey's brought in has been awesome for us. You can see, we're gelling doing it. There's a lot of teams around the country that's doing it, having success with it, and, something that we add in our arsenal as well.
Clayton.
You guys had some success with tempo last game and throughout the year at times, from Chip being able to talk to Bryce up until 15 and the different aspects of it. What makes that kind of a good look for you guys at times to mix in?
Yeah, I think it just helps quarterbacks, right? Just kind of see the picture, what to anticipate before it happens, and it's a cool little tool that has been introduced to college football. Obviously, the NFL's done it for years, and the same thing on defense, right? I'm sure defensive coordinators are telling whoever has the the green dot, same thing. Hey, they come out this formation, anticipate this. So no, I think it's a great ad for college football, and I think having a freshman quarterback. I think that aids him as well.
But what about tempo for you guys? What do you feel like worked there last game?
Trying to get game plans, No, I think just a change of pace is great. Gets the defense not set. The big factor in defenses is communication. How well you communicate from the front end to the back end, and then when you play in tempo, at times you see guys. If you're ever watching, you see a defense misaligned, or you see a defense like not in their spots. It's because of tempo, and I think it's great to implement that during the game.
Anthony?
We talked a lot about Marsh and Browder, but where is Jacob Washington at in his development?
Yeah, so Jacob's going to be a really good football player for us. You love him, 6'3", can run, makes plays. He's scout team right now, and just working his way up. He's another young guy that we're very high on. Unlike Browder and Marsh, they came in the spring. So Jacob came in during training camp. High school didn't allow him to leave school early, which I told my high school, 'cause we went to the same high school. Had some words from my high school coach about that. But anyhow. He was a little behind, in that regard, and just learning the offense, and now you can see that he has a grasp on things and he feels confident. So we just he's another one of those young guys that just kind of plugging away, keep getting better and better every day.
All right, everyone good? Any other?
Did you throw any passes in your career?
No, I did not, but I played quarterback in the Outback Bowl in Florida in the 03 game. It was one of those. You guys got to go back and watch in the archives. I don't know how I let Coach Carr convince me to do that. Anything for Michigan, right? But I had to turn my back to the defense. It was, I think it was like a 15-yard gain, something like that. But that was my one snap at quarterback at Michigan.